Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this young lady back. Of course, it's Simona Mangiante Papadopoulos. She's joining us from Italy right now, which is awesome. Simona, how are you? Good to see you.
Hi, Joe. Thanks so much for having me. I'm great. And you're becoming very famous here after your appearance on Italian TV.
I don't know about becoming famous, but that was really special. Now, for those who don't know, the logistics of it are that the time difference is so much that it was like 5:30 a.m. my time. I just stayed up the whole night. And you were translating for me and also taking part in the interview. It was very, very nice to see people in Italy react to somebody from the United States. And of course, you know just as much as I do about the U.S., but you were there, I was here. And the reaction that we're getting on YouTube, it brings up a bunch of questions. So I'm like, I've got to have Simona on now to talk about what I just learned about the Italian perspective and possibly the European perspective. It is very different than the American perspective, isn't it?
Absolutely. Actually, it was so interesting for me to be part of it because I don't know as much as you do, but I know the Americans' perspective a little bit more than Italians. And the fact that they assume that Americans are familiar with European Union, everything else, and you made it clear that it's something like really Americans are not much into. Or they're not very much familiar with,
Right.
was eye-opening because they realized that everything is a matter of perspective, and the fact that Italians realize that not everybody is so much into their EU madness, and mostly the way Americans look at European Union and vice versa, right? The other way
Yeah.
around. It's what makes this conversation great because we are on the West on the other side of the ocean, but we're still the West.
Right. We're all Western civilization. We're all
Yes.
the West, and we have the same Judeo-Christian beliefs, generally speaking. But it was interesting because the host brought this up, and this is what you're referring to. He brought up the question of what do Americans think about this, that, and the other thing happening in the EU? And my answer was as honest as I could be. I said, we're not educated on it at all. We don't think about the EU whatsoever in the United States. And I think some people on YouTube, when they watched it back, were like, oh, this American elitist, blah, blah, blah. No, we just don't know anything about it. And I think that probably is because the Italians or the Germans or the fill-in-the-blank European country isn't educating us much about it. I don't know the difference between the UK that did Brexit and those that are in the EU. So you live here and you also live part-time there. I mean, do you agree with me that the United States of America, our citizens, don't think at all about the EU? We don't know anything about it. We're not educated on it. We don't think about it.
I agree 100%. And actually, it was very refreshing to hear you educating Italian audience about that. They were, okay, we are obsessed with American news. They actually comment on everything that happens to American politics,
Right.
American culture, American everything. So they were expecting some sort of reciprocity in this extent, but actually, no, we are looking up at America much more than America is looking at us. And that's a reality, it's a fact. And they needed to hear that.
Well, I wonder, is it what I just said, that the EU isn't really, like, Italy should inform me? I'm an Italian American. I would like to know what's happening in my grandfather's home country. I'd like to know exactly how the EU works. I don't have any idea, and I do this for a living. So is it incumbent upon Italy and the other EU union, the other nations, to educate us, or should we learn more about it from this side?
Well, I think it's our job to educate you in many ways. You are a continent far apart, which has been taking leadership for so long, and we
Right.
look up to every trend that's set in America comes to Europe after a while. Now, with social media, it's becoming much faster than it used to be, but there is this symbiosis that happens from, I always say, the West on the other side of the ocean, right? So everything happens there,
Right.
including bad things, including wokeism, including all these crazy agenda of the Democrats has been imported in the European continent. So
Right.
have this privileged position of living in United States and in America and in Europe as well. So I can predict the next step, what's going to be imported here.
Right.
And there are things that you don't want to import in America, for example, immigration on the Muslim side, right? And these I can be witness as I experienced it, what it means to have this type of integration, what never becomes a real integration. So I think it's a very nice conversation. I think Italians very, 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 very happy with learning from you and, from a real American, but also with Italian roots.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm sure I will see you back.
No, it's funny because he was pronouncing my name Giuseppe Pagliarulo instead of saying Joe Pagliarulo or Joe Pags, and that was actually very cool. I have never been introduced on a show, and I've been doing this 35 years, to where somebody said my name the Italian way, and it felt very good. It was very nice to have you translating for me as well because it made me understand everything much better. As we're looking at the EU compared to like a Brexit where the UK left. What's the difference? Is there a simple way to say what the difference is if you're in a European Union country and if you're not one?
Well, to be honest with you, the only difference is that you regain that sovereignty that you gave up in the moment of the accession. UK thought it was unaffordable to keep implementing these immigration policies. They were probably among the countries that were affected the most by this Schengen area, which is a
Right.
freedom of circulation of goods and people, which implied also inclusion of people with a completely different culture, mostly from North Africa and Pakistan, and all this Muslim bloc that
Right.
changed dramatically the social substance of the United Kingdom. Now you will say it's a Great Britain as it used to be, but this change started in Europe ever since the socialists in the European Union took over, trying to impose this fake idea that we are some sort of united country. We're not. We are coming from very different histories. We're actually very strong identities. And we were at war until not long time ago, until America put peace
Right.
among our fights, internal fights. So the European Union can be easily replaced by treaties. What we're experiencing now is an overlap of sovereignty where we are giving up power over our own nations. And this results in controlled immigration flows and inflation by this a common currency that has been imposed in 2000, and we never recovered from inflation from that because it was adopted in a very reckless way without taking into account many other factors like adjusting of the power of
Right.
the currency.
It is Simona Mangiante Papadopoulos. Go follow her over on Instagram, Simona_Mangiante_. She's an attorney. She's an interviewer. She's a journalist. She's a model, owns her own clothing line. She gets it all done. Joining us from Italy right now. When I look at the EU, it appears to me, like you just said, it's a big block of socialism. And the reason why I say that is I asked you, I think, personally on a text, maybe before we did the interview, why isn't Maloney doing something about the influx of people who are a very different culture from Northern Africa? When I hear about what happened in Milan on New Year's Eve, about women, young women all talk about how they were assaulted, sexually assaulted, attacked, and treated like garbage from people not from there, there's something wrong. And your answer, I think, was she can't because she has to do the rules of the EU. So that's a problem. Is that first of all, is that the right answer, that she really can't do it independently? And secondly, isn't that a good enough reason to leave the EU?
Well, that's the real question. We should leave the EU or renegotiate the EU. Giorgia Meloni was voted by our electorate on a platform of Italexit mostly. She
Right.
was advocating for exit of Italy from the European Union for many years. But then when she came to power, she of course had to compromise because politics is also about compromise, we know.
Right.
So she is tied up with these policies of one border. We don't control when you have one border that defines the borders of the European Union. Then, of course, there is nothing such as the Italian border. You need to comply with this regulation that overrule your national legislation. So it doesn't matter how conservative you are as a leader. We have seen with Salvini, another leader who tried to take back these migrants
Right.
approaching the coast of Italy, and he has been on trial. Actually, his actions have been criminalized. So we are assisting also to lawfare here in Italy of targeting whoever tries to go against these policies, and it's actually the biggest odd. This is the crisis, the aspect of all of that. That we have to understand we can't solve this issue until we solve the issue of the accession to the European Union. If we can exit the European Union, we should at
Right.
least renegotiate. I disagree we can't exit. I think we are self-sufficient in many ways.
Of course.
I think Italy has an industry of cars, luxury goods, food,
Oh, food.
tourists.
The
We have
food.
we're so many resources over here. We have a
Right.
million of tourists every year. Not to talk about the luxury products we export. I think we should really take from America first policies, the focus on our nation, and give values and power to what we have, and be independent in many ways.
It's Simona Mangiante Papadopoulos. All very good stuff. When the EU formed, did the people of Italy have to vote for it? And if they did, what were they promised? Like, what was this is a really, really good thing, and here's why. What did they say would be good? Because as you said, inflation is out of control. You don't have your own currency anymore. You don't have your own borders anymore. You don't have your own immigration policy anymore. What was the bonus? What the people of Italy, if they had to vote for this, I think they did, then why would they say yes to it? What was the promise?
Well, the promise was to improve our status on the global stage. But the real question is why the people of Italy were not granted the opportunity to vote again for exit European Union. As back on time, they were given a consultancy power, like even the referendum, which was, when they were called to express their vote, it was not binding. So still the government could decide either or not to comply with people's will. So why we're not interrogated today? That's a real question. And also why we believe that European Union is so necessary. I mean, when we think about history, when we think about the economic structure of the countries of the European Union, we understand that we're actually supporting the Eastern European countries, which are the weaker.
Right.
We're actually making welfare of those European countries which are in the European continent, but they don't meet any standard to be within European Union. Besides Italy, France, Germany, at the time UK, you don't have that much such a strong country in European Union.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. I think that you just made a great point. It seems as though they're punishing places like Italy for success. If you're successful and you join the EU, you're going to help out those who aren't very successful, making like one big giant country, and nobody wants that. Italy has its own personality. It has its own identity. Why should it be a part of some other country? Look, we wish them well. We don't want them to do badly, but if Italy is succeeding, it's like here in the United States. They feel so bad here in the United States, the elites on the left, that they want to give away all of our riches, all of our identity, all of what makes us unique and incredible. They want to give it away because they feel bad about it. Do the leaders of Italy, do they feel bad about it? And they want to give something to somebody who didn't earn it? It's mass socialism, is it not?
It is, and that's actually it's kind of building this idea over assisting actually the weaker over the work of the strongest. And this is impoverishing the strongest and not making rich the weaker.
Yes.
So it's a failed experiment. I always say the European Union is a failed experiment.
Well, it's punishing
Not-
exceptionalism, right? It's
Exactly.
punishing
Yes,
exceptionalism.
totally. And Italy under Berlusconi, we are much capitalistic ambitions. We have a wonderful industry here. You can see from car industry, from clothing, right? Luxury accessories, jewelry. We have it all. I mean, why we should settle for something that doesn't resonate with our passion for entrepreneur companies and entrepreneurship? I don't know how to
Right.
say. Just business.
It is Simona Mangiante Papadopoulos from Italy joining us today. We appreciate it. By the way, the left, as you know, attacked Berlusconi horribly because they hated the fact that he loved Italy. It should be Italy first for you. It should be America first for us. It should be Canada first for them or whatever. And for some reason, they want to punish those who are exceptional. And I'm done with it. And I think the world is done with it. Although, when we talk about Biden leaving and Trump coming in, I looked at the comments after my interview on Italian TV on YouTube, and the comments were Trump is the same as Biden. Trump wants to be a dictator. Trump is going to start World War III. Why do they think that? How are they so confused about who Donald Trump is as a leader?
Well, because they don't trust probably the political institution behind the person. And I think they're completely wrong, because if there is one reason why I really love Donald Trump and I wish, and I always call him the leader of the free world, is because he's out of the box, is one of a kind, is not resonate with the political compromises. It's not the typical leader that once in power becomes just like the others, right?
Right.
So he's someone who's really bold and is showing already with his choices how bold he is. So Italians don't know into depth what Donald Trump's real nature really is. They're just probably deceived by the political game.
Well, what's interesting is I said that on that interview that he's the leader of the free world coming in, and some people commented, "Oh, he's not the leader of the free world. There's no freedom in America. Well, what? He owns the whole world now." It's like the political left in Italy must be very effective. Now, I want to be honest. About 95% of the comments were all very positive. They weren't negative. But the comments that were negative were so completely indoctrinated. Simona, it's as if they live here in Portland, Oregon. That's how confused they seem to be. Is there a strong political left in Italy and in the EU that keeps on pumping out this negative message?
Yes, the globalist agenda, which is importing all the nonsense from the United States. But also, let's be realistic, Joe. We have lived 4 years of insanity in the United States. So
Yes.
even the Italians and Europeans change their perspective over what freedom means in the United States. They've seen an Italian citizen like me being portrayed as a Russian. So for them, it's just
Right.
like the apotheosis of complete nonsense. They've seen fake investigation taking place to take down a candidate and then a president like Donald Trump. This Russia hoax really affected the image that people abroad have of America as a free country. So this is
It's
part of
amazing.
responsibility as well. Like it's not simply the mainstream globalist media importing this narrative. You actually projected a very weak image, while on the headlines everywhere in the world you had all this phony investigation to take down a president, the censorship, the lawfare, which has been brutal and still is brutal. Look what is happening to Rudy Giuliani.
Yes.
And one of
Sick.
their citizens, myself, being portrayed as somebody who I'm completely not, right? So they lived firsthand the censorship. And so that's why they were challenging the concept of freedom.
It is Simona Mangiante Papadopoulos. The Italian people are very smart. And I think that they very quickly will realize when Trump shows the evidence that he's the right guy, and it's going to make the world a more peaceful and better place. Already we see the ceasefire that's happening in the Middle East. I'm sure you're going to see a ceasefire or a stoppage of the war with Russia and Ukraine. I think those things will happen very quickly. And again, the Italian people will listen to both sides, but they're very smart. They'll see the proof, and they'll understand that he's the right guy, right?
Absolutely. And also they will understand they was the victim of this machine for a reason.
Yes.
And the reason is that it's not controllable by this machine. So this alone is the evidence that he's the right guy and the leader of the free world. So I think they're smart enough to get it. And I'm there to remind him every day.
Couple of things. Thank you for helping me out getting on Italian television. That's amazing of you. Thank you.
Oh,
Number 2, I can't believe you didn't send me any pasta or mozzarella. Can't believe that at all. And number 3, get home safely. I know that you'll be coming home again very soon. It's Simona Mangiante Papadopoulos. Follow her everywhere. She's also the interviewer on All the President's Men. It's amazing. Simona, thanks a million for making time today.
Thank you so much for having me. And you're always welcome to Italian TV. And thanks so much for having me on your show, which I love. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. We're back after this. Stay right here.